Welcome back. Well, after slashing the GST rates on under-construction projects and affordable housing in the last meeting, the GST Council approved the transition plan for the new rates for residential property yesterday. And as CNBC-TV18 has been reporting, developers will now have the option to switch to new GST rates for projects that are under construction as of 31st March 2019. Timsi Jaipuria, who has been tracking these developments, joins us with the key announcements. Timsi, tell us what are the key highlights?
Well, the GST Council has finally taken a call after keeping in all considerations and reservations and decided that the new revised lower GST rates will be applicable for all new projects and even new buildings coming up in ongoing projects from 1st of April, making it mandatory to switch to new rates. However, the transition period from old to new rates is yet to be decided by the government. Meanwhile, keeping in mind the reservations especially expressed by few states and developers, it has also decided that it will be an option for developers of ongoing projects to continue with old rates, taking the advantage of passing on the ITC or shift to new rates without ITC. Given this option and flexibility, the Council has also made it clear that government will closely watch that no developer goes in for price revision while shifting to new GST rates, and adding a word of caution that it will invoke strict anti-profiteering measures in such cases. Thus, it is now a smooth sail for developers when it comes to shifting to new rates or continuing with old rates. Back to you.
Projects or the residential buildings which are incomplete as on 31st March 2019, those buildings will have an option, and that option also will have to be exercised within a time limit, and that time limit will be decided in consultation with the states. So those buildings will have an option either to choose the old rate, that is 12% or 8% with input tax credit, or the new rate, that is the 5% without input tax credit or 1% without input tax credit.
Well, moving on then, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal has told the Reserve Bank that it can't allow the bad loan tag for the IL&FS group companies which fall under the amber category. The Appellate Tribunal also warned the central bank against turning this NPA classification into an ego battle. Ashmit Kumar joins us with more on the same.
Right, so a big tussle this between the RBI and the NCLAT over the regulation of the banking entities and the classification of accounts as NPAs, especially with respect to the IL&FS account. Now, the RBI is clearly unhappy with the NCLAT order of February 11th. That is the order under which the NCLAT had clearly provided that none of the IL&FS entities can be classified as an NPA account by none of the lenders. Now, the RBI's grouse with that is, and that's the grounds for their challenge before the NCLAT as well, that as far as the classification of accounts is concerned, it rests, the final word on that rests with the RBI. They are the regulator, they are the sectoral regulators, that their norms that they've laid down for classification of accounts as NPAs falls squarely under the RBI Act, falls squarely under the Banking Regulations Act, and are constitutionally valid and should not be altered with, should not be interfered with by the NCLAT. Now, in response, the NCLAT had some very sharp words. They observed that this should not be turned into a prestige issue by the RBI. Further, the NCLAT added that the aggrieved lenders don't seem to have a problem, but the RBI is raising concerns before us, and finally also went on to say that as far as RBI is concerned, their powers should be focused more on the resolution of accounts rather than classification of these accounts as NPAs. With that, the NCLAT has held that they don't have a problem with green or the red entities of the IL&FS group being pushed into the NPA bracket if they default, but the amber companies is something that the NCLAT will refuse to relent on. So clearly an issue that will require further deliberation, this tussle between the sectoral regulator and the appellate tribunal. The next hearing in this case, we understand, is on March 29th. Back to you.
Thank you, Ashmit, for that. But globally, the US-China trade talks have once again taken center stage as reports suggest that US Representative Robert Lighthizer and Secretary of State Stephen Mnuchin are scheduled to fly to Beijing next week to try and move the needle as far as the trade talks go. Hear out what market guru Mark Mobius has to say about the trade negotiations and the impact it could have on the emerging markets.
If we assume that China and the U.S. will reach an agreement, which I think will happen, the Chinese market will recover, will do better. Already we've seen some signs of that. India, of course, is forging ahead in incredible growth. Brazil now is in good shape. The question mark now among the BRICS is Russia. And I believe that hopefully after the reports come out about Trump and the election, maybe relations with Russia can get better. China is going through this transition from an export-led economy to a consumer-led economy, which is what they want. They want to be like the U.S., which is a U.S. Consumer economy, and they want China to be a China consumer economy going forward. And I think they're getting there slowly but surely. And if there's a trade deal done, then confidence returns. It's all about consumer confidence. Right now, people are sort of holding back in China, and I think with a trade deal, confidence will return.